Welcome back to the Buffalo Brea Podcast. JJ and Dan here, and as you may see at home, I'm wearing a jersey, which can only mean one thing. Dan, it's playoff time. Week one, wild card weekend. The Bills are set to play tomorrow. We're recording on Saturday, 1 p.m. 1 p.m. kicks are good for the Bills. They're good for the Bills on the road even though their Bills are terrible on the road, especially in the playoffs, but we'll talk about that. And it's going to be against Jacksonville in Jacksonville country down there in Duval. And I think the game looks to be best on best. The league's best rushing defense versus the league's best rushing offense in the Bills. And then on top of that, the Bills' number one pass defense against a top 10 unit on the Jaguars side of the field in offense, EPA overall, but also in passing. Dan, where is your head at? How are you feeling about this?
Playoff football is always exciting. I mean, this is usually the time of year where my social media feed gets flooded with the end of the drought. The videos in the Bills locker room as the Bengals eliminate the Ravens, and it gives the Bills a chance to head into the postseason in 2017. Like, all of that stuff, JJ, is just a nice reminder that this time of year, despite whatever the expectations are, whatever the narratives are, as a Bills fan, we should always just try to enjoy these moments because we've lived the majority of our adult fanhoods without having opportunities like this to enjoy extended postseason play for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, but most of all, I'm grateful for just getting to see the Bills play a little bit of extra football and hoping they can pull out a tough one against, as you stated, a really stout AFC rival in the Jacksonville Jaguars and a team, JJ, that the Bills have a really weird history against.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not like the recent history of the Kansas City Chiefs or even the matchups they've had with the Baltimore Ravens. To go through the Jags history, you go back to the drought break year where the Bills lost in Jacksonville, where Tyrod Taylor could not get the Bills a touchdown. Even though on the Centered on Buffalo podcast by Eric Wood, he shared that on the goal line of that game, Tyrod should have called a QB run and instead stuck to a fade ball to the outside. And on that fade ball, there was an offensive pass interference, set them back yard. They ended up getting a field goal instead. That would have been the points that made the difference that continued the playoffs, though Eric Wood admitted that team was not going to the Super Bowl that year. But really, to look at this Jacksonville Jaguars, Buffalo Bills, faux rivalry over the years, you have to go back to the 90s, to the Super Bowl era Bills. Just after the Jacksonville Jaguars were founded as a team, they played there a few times at the very end of that era before the drought began. And so it's an interesting matchup, and it's never been good for the Bills. Do you want to give a little bit of a history lesson?
Yeah, just focusing on the Sean McDermott era, the Jags, JJ, actually own a winning record against the Bills. They are 3-2, including the postseason, against these Sean McDermott-led Buffalo Bills. And I think even though the Jacksonville Jaguars have had three different coaches in that time frame, who has it been? It's been 4, because it was Doug Marrone, and then it was Urban Meyer, and then it was, now it's Liam Cohen. Who was
the last? Was it Doug Pete? No.
Yeah, it was
Doug Peterson?
It was Peterson, the former Philadelphia Eagles coach, right? Yeah. So over that time frame, it seems like regardless of the coach, they have had moderate success here against Sean McDermott and these Buffalo Bills. And JJ, Liam Cohen being a new head coach, we've seen head coaches like this roll against this Buffalo Bills squad before. Jacksonville is talking with their chests out. They're speaking as if they expect to and have already won this game in a lot of ways. This is a very confident team, despite the fact that this is their head coach's first rodeo in the lead role in the postseason. It's going to be interesting to see if the moxie and the energy that the Jags are bringing here to this particular game, JJ, is going to outweigh some of the experience and the stability that the Bills are bringing via their coaching staff and some of the veteran presence on this team as well. JJ, I have so many questions. Because, like, narratives aside for this game, these are two, I think, of the prime contenders in a wide open AFC to go to the Super Bowl. If you told me in 4 weeks that we're looking at the Jags versus any NFC team in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. This is a imperfect but effective defense. This is an offense that has caught fire thanks to the leadership and the sort of coming out moment of Trevor Lawrence, their veteran star QB. A lot of fans down in Jacksonville have been waiting for this. There's just so much about this Jaguars team, JJ, that is exciting to the general football fan, but also schematically presents a lot of problems for the way this particular Buffalo Bills team is built. Like, I'm just looking forward to getting into it. I'm hoping no matter what, we're going to have our questions answered at the end of the day tomorrow, but there's still a lot of fun stuff for us to unpack, I think, now.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you want to start with these major questions?
Dude, I want to talk. Can we talk about this Jacksonville Jaguars defense? Because you noted it. They are number one in the league right now in yards allowed per game against the rush. I think they're sitting somewhere like 68 yards per game allowed. Now, when you look at some of their underlying metrics, when you look at success rate, still pretty good. When you look at EPA per rush, also very, very good, as you alluded to. But a lot of this, JJ, has been, particularly in the last 10 weeks, when you really drill down in on this rush defense, a lot of it's been game script. They've been putting the pressure with their offense on opposing teams to the point where the run game really can't factor in for a lot of squads moving into latter parts of the game because they are playing catch up. You know, JJ, this is the game script that the Buffalo Bills lived and breathed on last year and have been struggling to find again. And the Jags are really proficient at running it. I will say that I see some opportunities here for this Buffalo Bills rushing attack led by second team All-Pro James Cook and a really stout offensive line. I think to really impose their will against this Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line. I am thinking, JJ, and I'd love your take on this, the Bills are actually going to have some success running outside the tackles on this team. And I feel like we've said this before. The Bills want to make your defensive backs tackle in the run game. And I think this is where the Jacksonville Jaguars can be had a little bit in their run defense, is making that secondary crash down and play really hard, stout rush defense.
Yeah, I think that's the real answer to. In the Bills matchup with the Patriots earlier in the season, the answer that the Patriots had for the Bills rushing attack that seemed to work so well and also seemed to add some fuel to the fire for other Bills losses throughout the year, and then they looked to pivot and fix it later on, was just having a really dedicated safety presence in the box and having cornerbacks maybe not necessarily take the farthest outside gap in a run fill, because that's where James Cook was gashing teams all through the first part of the year. And so the Patriots kind of started that blueprint and other teams started copying it. And it's interesting because, you know, the Jaguars do not have great outside tackling corners in Newsome and Brown. They are terrible in run defense, all things told. They have excellent linebackers, they have a solid defensive line, and they have decent safeties in run fill, but really their outside corners are not all-stars at getting up and getting physical and large. So, you know, Wingard and Murray coming down as safeties are going to be more helpful. So it's going to be interesting to me to see what, and part of the reason that the Jaguars defense is excellent against the run but bad against zone running is exactly that. It's zone running relies on a person to cover an area, and if that person is weak against the run, that's where it falls apart. They're great against gap running because kind of their defensive line and linebackers can man up anybody, but when it comes to requiring areas of the field to be denied based on a single player's run stopping possibilities, that's where they're going to struggle. So all that said, I think that knowing the Buffalo Bills, knowing offensive line coach and Joe Brady and his run design, I feel good about the Bills' opportunity to get this. I think that, you know, anybody out there who's playing gambling, betting, and parlays, going for an over 75 yards for James Cook is probably a pretty good bet, because the Jags have not given up more than 75 yards, so the odds are pretty good for you if you make that bet. But James Cook is also an absolute force.
Yeah, they really is. And JJ, that's kind of the story of this Jacksonville Jaguars defense. In the aggregate, their overall rankings, when you look at underlying metrics, when you look at yards per game, when you look at overall rankings, it's a really, really solid defense. It is a defense that I think thrives on turnovers, probably a little bit more than they would like to, but still has some shutdown capabilities in some areas. But then you find that one nugget, to your point, some of the outside zone stuff. And then in their pass defense game, when you look at areas of the field where they're solid in, there's always a little bit of an underlying weakness that you can exploit. And against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense, JJ, it's tight end defense. This team is very middle of the pack, 16th in the league when it comes to DVOA in tight ends as pass catchers against this squad, despite the fact that they've got some really, really solid linebackers. But this is more of a pass rush linebacker group, JJ. So if Dalton Kincaid is healthy and ready to go, and if Dawson Knox can continue some of his late second half of the season pass catching theatrics, I think we could see linebackers or safeties reassigned to shadow one or both of those guys in Bill's heavy set offensive schemes, and then that could open up things a little bit more for James Cook to exploit the second level in the middle part of the field as well. There are opportunities, despite the fact that in the aggregate, this Jacksonville Jaguars defense is very good. There are opportunities that speak to this Buffalo Bills offensive strengths that I think are going to allow them to exploit it. JJ, I want to talk about Josh Allen next here because I think the run game, I think you and I probably both agree, the Bills are going to come out and they're going to establish a run first mentality. They're going to want to take time off the clock. They're going to want to make sure that Trevor Lawrence stays on the sideline for as long as possible. They're going to want to suffocate this Jacksonville Jaguars team and give them as few opportunities as possible to get that high octane offense on the field. But again, this Jaguars defense is good, and their coaches get paid too. And they have a really excellent DC in Anthony Campanelli, I think is his name, right? Who is going to come ready with a great game plan to try to stop some of the stuff the Bills are rolling out. It's modern era football. At some point, Josh Allen is going to be asked to do something. And JJ, I think a lot of the media narrative has been, well, he is statistically the best postseason QB we have seen in the modern era that has yet to win a Super Bowl. And I think people are taking for granted that Josh is going to be able to put on that superhero cape should all else fail. But JJ, you and I both watched closely here at the end of the season, even though we didn't have a chance to really recap it due to various illnesses and family stuff that we were dealing with. This is as shaky as a run to close the season as I can remember Josh having. And he was very candid in that press conference here leading up to this game this week, where he talked about the self-scouting process he went through during week 18 and in the lead up to this wild card game. JJ, this is going to seem like a silly question. It's simplistic at first, but I want to dig into it. What is your confidence level that should Josh Allen be called upon to be Superman, we are going to see 13 seconds, Josh, as opposed to maybe what we saw against the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of weeks ago?
I don't have very high confidence because I think we've talked about it on the podcast throughout the season. He has not seemed like he's seeing the field like he has in previous seasons. And not just to close out the season, like you mentioned, it's been other than the Kansas City game,
Cincinnati game.
Yeah, Cincinnati game. And no, I would even consider, other than the Kansas City game, I don't think I've seen a complete Josh Allen game, right? Like he's played incredible halves or quarters of football. I haven't seen a game where he had complete control of himself, the offense, the team as it moved down the field, other than the KC game. And so, and because it's been a half, right? Like he had an amazing half against the Bengals. He had an amazing half against the Patriots. He had amazing 7 minutes against the Ravens, right? Like it's been fits and starts and spurts, but I feel like he's been one of 17 where he's put together a complete game and seemed to be in control. Some of that I absolutely know is the options in the wide receiver room. Some of that I know is absolutely Joe Brady's limitations as a play caller, but some of it is also Josh Allen. I think that it feels like it's blasphemous to be talking about Josh Allen in that way, but I think it's worthwhile to criticize what has been a up and down, inconsistent year from him. And I mean, he's taken the most sacks of his career. He's back up pretty high with turnovers again. And so I think that some of the flaws that you see in Josh Allen trying to do too much, making some mistakes, are showing up in this, have shown up in this season and may show up again in the playoffs, because I do know that he may feel that pressure, trickling up of, I've got to get this thing done. I've got to get a championship.
Yeah. And that's always what you worry about is Sugar High Josh, the Josh that we thought was gone after his MVP season last year, where he played almost impossibly efficient football. This year, to say he has reverted, I think is a little bit of a trope at this point, but we have seen far more of his pre-MVP tendencies than we have his MVP season tendencies this year for sure. And JJ, I think there's been some imperfections. You mentioned the scheme, you mentioned the personnel. When I really dug into some of the numbers for this game, I was curious, Josh's time to throw versus time to pressure and things like that. The offensive line is still giving him what he needs, a solid, clean pocket, above league average time before pressure reaches him, with the exception of a few really bad games like we saw against Philadelphia recently, like we saw against like some really elite defensive lines like Houston. But on the balance, this offensive line has done its job. Josh has had a clean pocket on 88% of his dropbacks this year. That is number one in the league by far, according to FTN. And time to pressure is well above that 2.5 seconds that is considered league average for quick pressure. I mean, the problem is Josh is hanging on to the ball. And we've seen him, Joe Brady made such a weird comment. I think it was heading into the Jets game. Someone in the media had asked him, what do you see about Josh's pre-snap reads that concerns you? And they were talking about the pressure he's seen, the number of free rushers that are coming off the line of scrimmage all the time. And you and I have talked about it too. And Brady's comment was that he thought Allen was operating at an elite level pre-snap at this point in the season. I mean, I was eating when I heard that comment. I almost choked on what I was eating because, I mean, you just watch the film, you even watch the broadcast, and it's not true. You don't see the percentage of free rushers coming off the line that the Bills do. If you have a QB who is elite at calling out protections pre-snap, you don't see a QB who struggles to hit his first read like Josh does when his pre-snap reads are supposedly elite. I mean, listen, on the other side of the ball, here with Trevor Lawrence, I would argue in this Liam Cohen offense, he is actually operating in an elite level pre-snap. Cohen has put a ton on Lawrence's plate to read protections and figure out where his best route success is ultimately going to be. And Lawrence has delivered by and large on a lot of that stuff. Lawrence currently is third in the league in overall number of pass attempts off of his first read. That tells me he is operating properly pre-snap. What he is seeing pre-snap is developing in front of his eyes post-snap, and he is trusting his wide receivers in his first read. Josh on the other side of that, 22nd in the league in first read attempts. Now, Josh has never been a huge first read QB. I think the highest he's ever ranked in the league is like 15th, right? Because he's always big play
15,
hunting.
16. Yep.
Exactly. He's always looking for something downfield. He's always big play hunting. But this Brady scheme, like something has to give in this game. You either need to, as Josh, succumb to the way Brady wants the scheme, which is 3-step drop, 5-step drop, get the ball out quickly, like Mitch Trubisky did against the Jets. Granted, it was against the Jets, right? Trust your first read, particularly if it's Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox or Khalil Shakir, and let your playmakers do something with the ball. The reason why I kind of share your lack of confidence is because I have yet to see in a 17-game sample Josh be able to trust that. And at some point, like I get, he might not trust the weapons around him, but you got to dance with who got you there. John Brown, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs ain't walking through that door anytime soon. You got to make it work with some combination of Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, should he be healthy, Dawson Knox, and then some amalgamation on the outside of Brandon Cooks, Keon Coleman, or Gabe Davis. Like, you just need to commit to that and kind of go out on your shield with it, because the way Josh has been managing things pre and post snap up until this point, to your point, has prevented this Bills offense from really playing a complete game.
Now, hang on, hold on. Are you absolutely certain that John Brown or Cole Beasley or Emmanuel Sanders aren't coming through that door? This is the Bills we're talking about.
I'm sure the Bills have reached out. Yeah.
Like, hey, Cole, you in shape, or you just doing a rap career right now?
I know, right?
We don't require the COVID vaccine anymore. You can come out of retirement.
Right. But it's crazy to think about this, because it's making it seem like we feel like Josh has been the biggest impediment to the success of this team. And that's not true, right? That is not true at all. The games that the Bills have won by and large the majority of them have been because Josh has been able to do quote unquote Josh Allen things. And the reason why the Bills are even in this spot to be in the postseason for the umpteenth consecutive time is because we have Josh Allen. And he's the reason why we've got the Super Bowl odds that we do. So this is not to say that Josh is an impediment to the success of this team, but if this is going to be more of a successful whole team win, as opposed to in a balanced attack, right? I think that's what I'm getting at. If this is really going to be a balanced Buffalo Bills attack like we saw last season, Josh is going to have to make some concessions in his tendencies that he has put on film, I think, in order to take advantage of the specific weaknesses of this Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
I think we'll be able to tell pretty quick into the game what his self-study or self-scouting did, if anything. Like, yes. if it made him kind of think a little bit harder about that first hit read, we'll be able to tell pretty quick. Because I mean, I was just, as you were talking about, Trubisky, the way Trubisky played against the Jets, and you were talking about kind of how the Josh we've seen in years past, I just thought of Dable's offense. And I think a lot of it's two things. It's not having trust in the wide receiver room, and it's also maybe not having trust in the play design. Because Josh Allen, when he was under Dabes in his like huge blow up year in 2020 and 2021, he was on, right? Like, he set his protections, he hit his back foot. Wasn't always his first read, but it was not usually his third, right? And now I feel like you see him searching and seeking and spinning out of pressure and trying to find something to do with the football way more often, because I don't think the weapons that he needs to like trust and be confident are there. So he's taking sacks, right? He's taking sacks. He's throwing, uncharacteristic picks and stuff like that. It's interesting. There's can we continue to talk about the Jags defense a little bit with this maneuver? So yeah, I think we've said, summary Cliff's notes of the Josh Allen segment. We love Josh. The Bills would not be anywhere close to the playoffs if it weren't for him as their quarterback. He is probably the best, most talented quarterback. Him, Stafford maybe. End of list, right? Like, Drake May has a great year, but
I like Drake May more than you do. I could tell. No. I think he's super talented.
I think he's great. I think I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I think he's great. For me, it's the same thing I said to Brandon when we had him on the pod. Just need to be consistent. I need to see it more often than 1 year, right? And so, but yeah, he's had an excellent year. So other than those three quarterbacks, I can't think of a QB in the playoffs that's super intimidating, right? And so we love Josh Allen. He has not been consistent this year. He hasn't shown us what the Bills need him to show in order to be efficient, productive, and consistent on offense. And that's going to be a big piece of what this comes down to, is if at any point in time the Bills' rushing attack is not working, Josh Allen's got to make an efficient passing attack that can move the ball down the field. And it might look like a dink and dunk, but first downs over touchdowns, like Tom Brady always used to say, right?
Always take the free yards. And I think that's the thing. The piece of, again, regression is such a strong word because he still played at an MVP caliber level this season. But I think the biggest difference in his game and his skittishness in the pocket this year has been that he's been unwilling to take the free yards the teams were giving him last year. Now, it's sometimes when I look at it on the film and I see James Cook flash out of the backfield, or I see Shakir come open in the flat, I also see a DB or a linebacker about 3-4 yards behind them. And I know immediately there's no yak opportunity there. And I know that that's what Josh is thinking too. But at some point, like, take those 4 yards on first down, take those 4 yards on second down, because it's a lot better to be third and +4 or second and +4 from where you were there, as opposed to throwing a 30-yard incompletion downfield to a double covered wide receiver. Right. Man, JJ, I like this Jaguars defense, as we continue to dig into it. They honestly, they have had some, I don't want to say inconsistent moments, but they've been a lot higher variance, I think, than the aggregate numbers would lead you to believe. Like, over this 8-game winning streak that they've had, they have allowed 4 QBs in that time to go for over 270 passing yards, despite the fact that when it comes to DVOA, they're a top 11, they're a top 10 type of pass defense. JJ, those QBs have been Geno Smith, CJ Stroud, Jacoby Brissett, and Bo Nix, right? Do we not think Josh Allen, if push comes to shove and this rush defense is shut down, can't put together a 270-plus yard game against this Jags defense? Like, really? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, no, we're not there. And But this is the thing. This is where the like weird voodoo mama juju stuff of the Jaguars comes in. This team has some weird hex like on the Bills when they come into that stadium. Like the Urban Meyer Jaguars beat the Bills. The Bills lost to the Jaguars in Tottenham Stadium in London and lost multiple defensive starters for the whole season that game. Like, I don't know what it is, but every time there's like a dark cloud that follows these Bills when they play against the Jaguars. It's like somebody, it's like O.J. Simpson threw the bloody knife underneath the Jaguar Stadium as it was being built, right? Like something happened to tie these two franchises together.
Dear God,
he's dead. He's dead. It's fine.
No,
we all know we did it. Yeah. So,
Simpson Estate, please don't sue this podcast. We are sponsored by no one and have no money.
We have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. So that all said, in jest, of course, is that there's something weird that ties these. I'm not usually a vibes guy, but in this situation, I absolutely am like really worried about the game because of the matchup, because of the team. And it's not like the KC matchup worries that we always have. It's the Bills have had utter defeats and heartbreaking losses at Kansas City, but we always know that they're going to show up, right? Like since 2021, the Bills have not been blown out by Kansas City. It's not been a thing. It's always we see one of their best shots. Often the defense lets them down, but we know it's going to be a game. I'm afraid that this Jaguars game, like even though they've padded their defensive stats against inferior quarterbacks. I totally agree with that. Even though they have a kind of a weird turnover differential that's insanely high, uncharacteristically high, and their offensive production is largely dependent on it, as any team would be with that level of turnovers, interceptions, fumbles, etc. And to that note, there's a YouTuber who I'm going to give a shout out to, Michael McKelvey. Have you ever watched his stuff?
Yeah.
He does like the super in-depth analysis on things like the rubber band effect, why teams look like they're playing better when they're losing by a bunch, and why the good team that came out to a huge lead looks terrible, and like the statistics and raw data behind that. It's awesome. He did a Does Defense Wins Championships. I watched the whole thing, and he boiled it down to the statistics and data would show you defense does win championships, but specifically fumble luck, which is an impossible thing you can be good at punch outs, but the ball bouncing into your player's arms is that completely random. That's a roll of the dice. But he really found that the teams that had fumbles in their favor that they recovered more than other teams almost always went to the Super Bowl in the seasons of the playoffs compared to the field. So that's something that the Jaguars currently have, but that doesn't always mean they're going to have it in the playoffs.
JJ, do you know what team led the league last season in fumble luck?
Was it the Bills?
It was the Bills.
Yeah.
It was the Bills. They led the league last year in fumble luck. Yes. Percentage of fumbles recovered versus percentage of balls lost. Yes. It was the Buffalo Bills. And I haven't seen that specific thing, but I've heard a lot about fumble luck. It's also not a pure regression stat. It is a pure luck stat. So if you have good fumble luck one year, doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to have good fumble luck the following year. It is completely random from year to year, right? That's crazy. I love
you could be the first one season and 28th the next, and then 7th the third. It's all over the map.
Exactly. And again, that's no disrespect to the Jags, right? But as a defense over the past, I would say 3 seasons in Buffalo, that we have seen really feast or famine when it comes to turnover luck. We know that if you can take care of the ball against this Jags defense, it gives you better than a puncher's chance to really come out ahead as an offense. JJ, speaking of defense, you want to switch gears here and talk about the Buffalo Bills. Is it improving defense? So as I was doing research for this pod, I listened to some of our usuals, right? Biscaglia, Marino, both Marinos, the Shout guys. And there's a lot of like honing in on the past 5 weeks or so to say, and a lot of folks saying that this Buffalo Bills defense is really kind of coming into its own, particularly with its improvement in the run D. I don't know that that's necessarily the case on the latter point, but I will say Taron Johnson has gotten healthier as the season has gone on, and his coverage has improved, and the Bills are going to need it against the Jags. Christian Benford has been playing at an elite level when he has been on the field here towards the end of the season. I feel good about him. And Trey White, we know we're not going to have Max Harrison for this, but Trey White since the bye has really played, I would argue, some of his best football since his first stint with the Buffalo Bills. Terrell Bernard going to be out for this game, but the linebacker core seems to have solidified with Shaq Thompson getting healthier, Matt Milano getting healthier. And then JJ, the defensive line, we got a healthy Joey Bosa, knock on wood, coming into this game, and a healthy Greg Rousseau. The Bills' defensive numbers, listen, they are what they are. And when you drill down on the last 10 weeks, you look at some of their advanced metrics, they still stink at defending the run. They're still 32nd in the league in overall DVOA and EPA per play and success rate, 32 across the board. But there have been some bright spots here. JJ, this is, as we have said, a high octane Jacksonville Jaguars offense and a QB that is operating, I consider an elite level in this offense in Trevor Lawrence. Is the Bills defense bringing enough guns to this gunfight to stifle or even stymie this Jacksonville Jaguars attack?
So I watched a number of the Jaguars games, and they did a lot of stat padding against teams like the Titans. They played some pretty poor competition in a number of the games during their 9-win or 8-win streak. And I know that that's still real, right? The Bills have, trounced lesser teams, and that's added to their, overall statistics and still been a highly competitive team. Or they play down and lose. Yeah, not this year.
Yeah, not this year.
Years prior. And last year, in fact, one of the teams that they absolutely decimated was the Jaguars, right?
Week 3.
Yeah. And so there's a little bit of that. So I'm like, is this, is the offense fool's gold? It's not. They have answers for a lot of things. I think Liam Cohen is an excellent play caller, and that excellent play caller paired with a very skilled quarterback is the kryptonite for any Sean McDermott defense, especially one when he's leading a team that has 16 players on their injury report this week. Like, that's the part that's the part that I don't know that there's a solution for. And it seems like the cruelest of all of the lucks is that the Bills can't seem to play a playoff game with their preferred starting defense.
Hasn't happened.
Or even not even that, because most teams don't at this time of the year, right? Like, defenses, the injury percentage is 100% for players in the league over their career. It's that the Bills haven't brought more than 8 of their starting 11 to the field in any playoff game that I can remember. They just elevated Bale Inspector. I don't think Shaq Thompson's going to go. Like, that is terrible.
That is bad news.
They lose Max Hairston on a freak high ankle sprain in like the latter half of the Jets game, right? Like this, of course we know Ed Oliver's out, Michael Hoyk's out. They're not going to get those players back. Daquan Jones is like limping on a busted calf. It's
Terrell Bernard.
Terrell Bernard is out. Yeah.
So this rosy picture I painted of, hey man, are things coming together?
Are they getting better
at the right time for the defense? You're like, no, that's not happening.
No, they're not. I will say this though. Players like Cole Bishop, Jordan Poyer, Trey White turning it on, Christian Benford turning it on, you're going to see exceptional individual efforts from those guys, and that will matter. I think I don't think that their pass defense is fool's gold for the Bills. I think the pass defense is legitimate. It's number 1 in the league. They have consistency throughout the year. They cannot stop the run. It's not just because teams can just run all over on them, because they've also, they also won 12 games. So it's not possibly that they give up rushing yards to the fact that they pad the teams are not passing on them, which is kind of a thing that the Jaguars people are talking about with the Jaguars run defense, right? That nobody's running on them because their offense has been very, very hot and gotten out to leads.
Game script.
Yeah, exactly. As you said prior in the pod. So I do think that the Bills pass defense is real. I don't think that the Bills rushing defense being shored up is real. I think that that's contextual because of who they faced, how they faced them, game script, and then some individual matchups, some players that, and then inexplicably teams that just abandon the run, like the Dolphins, or the Patriots, in the second half, like that inexplicably are just like, we're going to just not do that. So
yeah, without a doubt. Do you think the Jags are gonna? Trevor Lawrence is playing at such a high level, and it seems almost criminal to take the ball out of his hands. But do you think the Jags, particularly early on in this game, are going to test this Bills run defense? I think it would be malpractice not to.
Yeah, absolutely, they will. Yeah,
but this is a team too that I could see. JJ, this is a team that I could see choosing to get off the run real quick, depending on how Lawrence comes out for this game. If Lawrence comes out hot, I could see them really leaning on him and the rush game not being a factor for the Jags, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's a rushing attack that I think has been high variance and inconsistent. They're sitting at 20th overall, I think, in EPA per rush, which is not great. They don't exactly have a mauling offensive line in the run game either, but the Bills have been kind of a panacea for a lot of teams that struggle with that kind of thing. But I could really see Cohen being flashy is not the right term, but he is a high leverage play caller. And I could see him leaning into his young, up and coming into his own QB in this game early on, if Lawrence is kind of feeling it.
I could see that too. And I think that, as Bills Mafia, expect Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, especially if they end up getting the kickoff to start the game, trying to come out and just like dagger the Bills through the heart straight out of the gate, right? Like they are going to try to take the wind out of their sails as a visiting team in this game in their house. And they have all of these things on the line. They've been crushing it for so many weeks in a row. I expect them to want to like deliver on a shot play or something very early to establish dominance in the game and try to take the spirit of the Bills out of it as a guest in their home. And so I could see them not running the ball for maybe the first quarter more than a few times if the pass is working, if they're just marching up and down the field with the short passing game and run after the catch, which actually it's interestingly enough, Trevor Lawrence is like 38th or something of quarterbacks with run after the catch. That doesn't happen for him. It's about the design getting a player open in space, but coverage players are close enough that they're not really breaking them.
Exactly. JJ, let me put it more succinctly. I don't think, based on what I've heard in all the pregame interviews, I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars think they need to run the ball to beat the Buffalo Bills, right? I think that's the level of confidence they're operating with right now.
Well, and especially when they have, they have Jacoby Myers, they have Brian Thomas Jr., they've got Parker Washington, who blew up out of nowhere and looks amazing this season. And then who's their tight end? Brenton Strange,
yep.
Yeah.
Love that kid. That kid's great.
Oh, he's awesome. He can do, and he is a player who can do it all. He's 6'4", 250 and can block, can catch, has equal run block and receiving grades essentially. So yeah, I mean, they don't really have to do too much in terms of establishing the run with the matchups they're going to see against anyone against Trey White. And then anybody who's in a slaughter out of the backfield matched up against Milano or Thompson, because they are older. Their coverage grades this season, their coverage ability has not been exceptional. And it's also interesting that, I think Milano has one interception, maybe. Shaq Thompson might have one as well. But neither of them has been excellent in coverage. And Shaq Thompson might not even be there. It might be Matt Milano and Balin Spector, which they can pick on him all day with tight ends and running backs.
Yeah, if Balin Spector has to play any meaningful snaps, this is going to be Kyer Elam 2.0 in the postseason. I mean, they're just going to relentlessly target him. I think they're going to look to get Myers matched up as much as humanly possible on Taron Johnson, too. I mean, Myers has just been a merchant in the middle of the field for them, which has freed up Brian Thomas Jr., to your point earlier, just to own the boundary for this particular team. And then Parker Washington is their kind of do-it-all possession guy with some explosive capability all over the field. I mean, it's going to be dicey. I've got confidence that the Bills, even without Max Hairston, can figure out a way to deal with it. But this is going to be like a chess match, McDermott and Babbage versus Liam Cohen, and figuring out who to place where and what matchups to try to get for yourself. I mean, as a pure football fan, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. As a Bills fan, it's going to be incredibly stressful.
As a Bills fan, I'm terrified.
Yes.
As a football fan, like it's going
to be great.
Yeah. Well, and especially, Parker Washington, I think he's like 5'10", but Brian Thomas Jr. 6'4", Jacoby Myers 6'2". The Bills' tallest corner is Christian Benford, who's 6'1". And Taron Johnson and Tre'Davious White at this stage of their career don't have the hops. And Trevor Lawrence, that's one of the parts of his game that in watching the playback of his games, he's been excellent at ball placement to give his guys a chance at the jump ball even when coverage is tight and they're getting them.
His high points are ridiculous.
Yep.
And I just think back to that Bengals game, watching. Like, that was, to me, how stark a reminder of how small our DBs are when they were going against the trees that were Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, right? Like, And I think we're going to see some of that again, too. Man, there are, to me, fewer opportunities for this Bills defense to attack this Jaguars offense compared to our offense's ability to wear down some of the holes in this Jags defense. I really do think. I don't think this is going to be necessarily a game where both offenses score at will on each other, but I do think the over-under in this game is 51.5 for a reason. So that being said, JJ, you want to get some predictions sure to go wrong?
Let's do it.
All right, man. So as I mentioned before, over-under on this game, according to DraftKings, 51.5 points. And the Bills open, JJ, interestingly enough, as road favorites in this game, but that line is completely flipped. The Buffalo Bills opened up as 1.5-point favorites. That betting line is now moved in favor of the Jags, who are now 1.5-point favorites for this game. And according to ESPN's FPI Football Power Index, the Jacksonville Jaguars have a 53.2% chance to come out on top of this game. JJ, a lot of people are saying the winner of this game is going to win the AFC. I don't know if it's that, but this is definitely, to me, the best game, at least on paper, in Wild Card Weekend. JJ, who do you got?
Well, I'm wearing my away Allen jersey, and in Allen I trust, right? Given all the things we've said and all of the things we've seen with some inconsistency and criticisms, he is still Josh Allen. I think, as I said before, I think he's still the best elite QB talent in the whole playoff field. And we know that quarterbacks get it done in the playoffs, right? Like that is the difference maker for most playoff runs. It's not, who's the guy from the Buccaneers who won one was like Brad something or other.
Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson. Brad Johnsons of the world don't usually get the chip, right? It's the Bradys, it's the Peyton Mannings, it's the Drew Breeses. And Josh Allen is one of those guys, and he's the first quarterback in NFL history. Period. And the other piece, and I'll say this, I'm long-winded to get to my prediction. Josh Allen,
roll with it.
His fourth quarter QB rating is absolutely through the roof. It's like 143. Trevor Lawrence's fourth quarter QB rating is like a 74. So in crunch time, I think it might be Josh Allen, and I'm taking Josh Allen in this one. And I know quarterbacks don't play against quarterbacks. It's such a stupid media trope, but
it really is.
I'm going to go with, I'm hitting the over, and I'm saying Bills 31 against a Jags 28.
Nice.
It's going to be a heartbreaker, like down to the wire for either fan base, but I think the Bills pull it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, man, I'm voting with my heart. My head says the Jags have enough advantages here to kind of force a changing of the guard, turn the page in the AFC, and really kind of take control here in the playoffs. But my heart, man, is always going to be with the Buffalo Bills. And to your point, I think there's enough Josh Allen things that can be done in order for the Bills to prevail. And I really do think, regardless of what we think about Joe Brady, him and Aaron Kromer know how to scheme a run game. And I do think this is going to be easily the biggest test that this Jacksonville Jaguars defense has faced when it comes to fitting the run all season. And I think the Bills are going to be able to do some stuff in the run game that's going to be very effective. I've got Bills 34, Jaguars 31 in this particular game. I'm also taking the over, but the Buffalo Bills advance. And JJ, I'm knocking on wood, but it feels like I've been saying this all season. The Bills are either going to lose in the first round or they're going to go to the Super Bowl. If the Bills can overcome this obstacle, and this is no shade to anybody else who's in the AFC, but if the Bills can right some of the things, some of the challenges and some of the issues that we've seen, particularly on the offensive side of the ball in this game, I mean, there is nothing like playing your best football when it comes to this time of year. So if the Bills can showcase that against, I would argue, one of the toughest, if not the toughest AFC challenge they're going to face, I feel good about the Bills' chances to make it to the Super Bowl should they be able to prevail in this game.
I do too. Yeah, no, I think that looking at the whole field, I feel more comfortable about the Bills traveling to Denver or traveling to New England or, facing Houston at Houston than I do about this particular game. If they get through this hurdle, I'm with you. I think that they might go the whole way.
And this is a big hurdle because, again, this is a confident young team. And this whole season, JJ, has felt like a changing of the guard moment in the NFL, but particularly in the AFC. But I just got done watching the Carolina Panthers and the LA Rams play a barn burner. And it felt like the Panthers were about to force a changing of the guard on their own by sending Matt Stafford home, but the old guys prevailed, man.
Yep.
And the Bills, we're the old guys, and we're the old guys in this equation, right? Yeah. Yep. So I'm going with the old guys, man. I just don't think, like any good boomer, they're just not ready to give up their station in life just yet. So yeah, going with the Bills. What kind of prop bet do you have?
So I've got one on defense and one on offense. On defense, Joey Bosa over 1.5 sacks, over under.
I mean, push, like they're gonna need a great game out of him, and I think he's been saving something special for this postseason run. I like where he's at with his health. 2 sacks would like double his sack, like it would be like half of his sack output from the regular season. That's a lot. I wouldn't hate it, right? But I'm gonna push, like, okay. I think 1.5. Like I think he gets
like
one.
Feels right.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. I mean, the media bit of him recently saying this is the healthiest he's been going into the playoffs as an entire career. That felt like something to me.
Yes,
and
without a doubt.
He is exactly the kind of person that has a different gear, sort of like Ed Oliver does, sort of like Josh Allen does, right? Like who they sort of they it's not like they hold anything back during the regular season, but in the playoffs they find a different mode of being. Yep.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, then, what's your offensive one?
Yeah, just one offensive one. Gabe Davis. Under half a touchdown.
Under.
All right.
I don't know what it's going to be. Listen, I love Gabe as a human being, as a leader on this team, as a run blocker in this scheme.
Yeah.
But I have seen way too much Gabe Davis playoff time stuff in our social media feeds. Like,
okay, you're tired of it.
Let's just be honest about what this guy is at this point in his career, right?
3rd or 4th with special teams upside type player.
If we're talking about, will Josh really trust Gabe Davis? This goes to our earlier conversation of it. You got to dance with who got you there, and you have to change some of your preferences as QB if you're truly going to balance out and maximize this offense to its fullest capability. I'm not saying the ceiling is super high on this offense, but I'm saying that we have yet to see it maxed out to its capability. And I think if you're locking in on Gabe Davis early and often in this game, that is a problem. Khalil Shakir is your best wide receiver. Dalton Kincaid is your overall best pass catcher, and Dawson Knox is your best red zone threat. That is the order of operations. That is the pecking order. Everybody else goes right out the window. And if Gabe Davis is interceding in any of that order of operation, I think we have large problems in this game. Under.
Sorry. I knew where I was taking you when I invoked Grape Davis. So yes. I wanted to get that out of you. Can I give you the real offensive prop now?
Well, you're terrible. That wasn't right. That's so good.
No, I still wrote it down. I still wrote it down. Good. I was just rage baiting you though.
Oh my God. Well done. So, I deserved it for all the rage baiting I did with Pats fans.
I think that's fair. As a little comeuppance.
There you go.
Dalton Kincaid over under 6.5 receptions.
Over. It has to be.
You think,
this is the weakness of this particular defense, and they have got to take advantage if Dalton Kincaid is even 80% healthy.
Call me the doom and gloom guy, but I'm taking the under because
Gabe Davis is getting those targets. Is that what you're going to say?
Maybe. No, because I just have this feeling that Dalton Kincaid is playing on like a shattered kneecap or something. And like, I just feel like every time we see him on the field for a game, we're like, oh my gosh, Dalton Kincaid. Oh my gosh. Like that was a great catch. Oh man, he was wide open. Oh man. And then after 2 or 3 receptions, something pops in his lower body and he disappears, right?
And he's off the field.
And he's gone for 5 weeks. So with that being said, like I know they've been trying to save him up. They've been taking it real slow with him, trying to give him just a few snaps here and there in the last few games to try to make sure he's healthy for this moment. But I don't know that it's enough. I think he's pretty injury prone. I think something is going on there. And so I think it's going to be under. Sadly, I'm the doom and gloom guy. But I agree completely that in a perfect world where he's not all dinged up, he absolutely should get 10 receptions every game because he's the best weapon they have.
Without a doubt. And he is arguably the only matchup problem they have too. He's the only guy who you have to account for other than James Cook every time he's on the field.
Yep. All right. What are your props?
I just have one, and it's offensive and it's related to your Dalton Kincaid one. Rather than going with specific pass catcher, I had over under 11.5 total receptions for the tight end room. So this is a nice little bundle of Jackson Hawes, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox.
Over under 11.5.
11.5. So Dawson Knox has averaged just under 5 receptions per game in the last 5 weeks here of the season.
Yep. No, that's a good one. I'm going to go over, because even though I have some worries about Dalton Kincaid and his ability to stay on the field, I do think that this offense is going to try to press what is one of the only significant and consistent weaknesses of this Jaguars defense, and that is tight ends in the middle of the field and to the outside. So I like it. I'm taking the over.
Nice. Yeah, I'm taking the over on this as well. And I'm not going to say this is going to be like a big Jackson Hawes game, but this Jacksonville Jaguars defense is top 10 in EPA per play against play action.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buffalo Bills, since week 10, they're a top 11, just outside the top 10 squad in using play action. I think this is another, like the run game, strength on strength thing that Brady is going to want to test. And because they put Hawes into motion so much, he just feels like an ideal tight end leak candidate for one of these play action shots. So yeah, I'm going to say we see some unexpected Jackson Hawes positivity in this game on the pass catcher side. I like it too. And JJ, I'm going to like it if the Bills win. I do.
Me too.
I like him. Yeah, I think he's great.
Yeah.
Just love him. One of the best draft picks we've had in a very long time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man. I'm also going to like it if the Bills win. Again, my head is coming up with all the reasons why they're not, but my heart is like, listen, man, if not now, when? When's it going to be? And I understand that Josh isn't playing his best ball. This is far from the best roster that we have seen the Buffalo Bills roll out in any postseason, but I'm Bills Mafia, man, and I'm rolling with the squad no matter what.
Well, and I think that, to your point of this is not the best roster we've seen, plenty of pretty middling rosters end up winning a championship. That's happened so many times where people go, the Giants in 2011, right? Like teams come in, and if they just hit the right heat at the right time and the guys are playing together and they're unified and the coaches are doing their job, it can happen.
I mean, listen, we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs do it for the past couple of seasons. They're back. There's no shade at KC, they're back to back after getting rid of Tyreek Hill. They were not rolling out elite anything other than an elite Travis Kelce and an elite Patrick Mahomes and an elite Chris Jones.
Right.
It just takes 3 or 4 guys in the postseason to make that difference on the margins. Hopefully the Buffalo Bills can find their 3 or 4 guys here against the Jaguars, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. All right. For all of you listening at home, we hope you enjoy Buffalo Bills postseason football. Never take it for granted, kids, because you never know when a 17-year drought is upon us. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.